The Beyond Shakespeare podcast is supported by our patrons. To become a patron, go to www.patreon.com/Beyond Shakespeare and help decide what we do next. Beyond Shakespeare presents Fragments. Robin Hood and the Sheriff / Knight. Robin Hood and the Knight / Sheriff. Choose your own title. This is the third of the 3 Robin Hood plays we've been looking at in Fragments this week, which is unfortunate as it is the earliest. It is also possibly best not to call it a play if the other 2 later plays from the mid-16th century are plays that focus on action. This is action linked by lines of dialogue. It's dated somewhere in the late 15th century, so it's in the region of 100 years earlier than Robin Hood and the Friar and Robin Hood and the Potter. And it also came to us as a block of text. It was a while before actually anyone realised it was some kind of performance script, and translating the text into action is tricky. I have this script here. So you get this block of text and it just comes out as... Sir Sheriff, for thy sake, Robin Hood will I take. I will thee give gold and fee. This behest thou hold me. Robin Hood, fair and free, under this lind shoot we. With the shot I will all thy lusts to fat thee prike, and I cleave the stike. And it sort of goes on in that fashion as a big block. But when, say, someone realised that maybe it'd be a great idea to chop that down into chunks of text, that it sort of makes sense. And as I say, translating that then into action is tricky, and this is one of those episodes where we hit the limitations of our medium fairly hard. Robin Hood and the Knight, or the Sheriff, it's been named variously, is a visual event, surviving only as dialogue, and it's rendered here as a podcast. The general confusion was compounded at the workshop phase, where I chose one interpretation of how the text works over one that actually does work. It was a bit of a mess. Broadly, the story goes thus. The sheriff hires a knight to kill Robin. Then the knight challenges Robin to a number of challenges, which led to the first set of confusions. Now, the first 2 challenges are straightforward, an archery contest and a shot-put type stone event. Then, well, it's a bit unclear. There's another contest suggested of casting the axletree, which we missed the meaning of axletree completely at the workshop, and the rules of which are a little unclear. I assume the axle can be tossed as a caber type thing to see who gets the furthest. It could be a wheel, or they roll it along. I don't know precisely how that's supposed to work. And in this challenge, Robin possibly gets his a foot further, which explains when Robin says foot before thee. However, and I appreciate this might be a bit of a fudge, we read it as there was supposed to be another challenge with the axletree, but Robin puts out his foot and trips his opponent up. In one interpretation, after the axletree, they have a wrestle, but there's no invitation to have a wrestling match, of which Robin's supposed to win. It flowed better for me that they go to the next challenge, the axletree. Robin trips the knight up, laughs at the knight, which provokes the knight into a direct challenge. And so far it's not been a violent clash. The knight hasn't actually said, I am going to kill you. He just challenges him. And the knight plans to call for reinforcements, to blow his horn, but Robin wants it 1-1. They then fight, and the knight loses, the knight being, in my version, horribly, horribly killed, and Robin then nicks his clothes. And that's the end of the first 2 scenes. I'm happy to say this is a bit of a fudge, but I think it works. Then there is a scene between an indeterminate number of characters discussing Robin and his success or failure as a general rebellion. In the version we used in the workshop, which you'll hear at the end of this podcast, Robin is disguised as the knight, and he discusses his own capture with another person. For this recording, we went with the other better interpretation that there are various outlaws who meet and discuss how well the rebellion is going, and they go on to assist and they find Friar Tuck and others under attack by the sheriff and his men. The outlaws then presumably go to his aid, and there's a big set-piece battle, which is sort of the point of this event. It's a series of challenges, demonstrations of exciting skills, and of course to pitch battle, because that's always fun. And they're all captured. Again, in the workshop we used a version that used some of the dialogue to describe rather than as dialogue. So there's a version where instead of a line of dialogue saying, Friar Tuck, this is no game, they took Friar Tuck to be a character designation. So Friar Tuck says, this is no game, which makes no sense at all. It was a terrible interpretation, and I'm slightly annoyed with myself that we went with it for the workshop, not for the actual recording. Frankly, our workshop was a mess, but it's included at the end here as a demonstration that we are not gods and have feet of clay like you all. For all our flaws, the next few minutes is hopefully a fun demonstration of a text largely unheard over the last 500 years, and if you disagree with how we did it, that's fine. Enjoy. Robin Hood and the Sheriff, or Robin Hood and the Knight.
Sir Sheriff, for thy sake, Robin Hood will I take.
I will thee give gold and fee. This behest thou, hold me.
Robin Hood, fair and free, under this lind shoot we.
Ha! With thee shoot I will, all thy lusts to fulfil.
Have at thee, pryke.
Ha! And I cleave the stike.
Let us cast the stone.
I grant well, by St. John. Ha!
Let us cast the axle tree.
Have a foot before thee. Sir Knight, ye have a fall.
And I thee, Robin, quite shall. Out on thee I blow mine horn.
Were better be unborn. Let us fight at outrance.
He that fleeth, God give him mischance.
Now I have the mastery here. Off I smite this sorry swire. This knight's clothes will I wear, and in my hood his head will bear.
Well met, fellow mine. What hearest thou of good Robin?
Robin Hood and his many with the sheriff taken be.
Set on foot with a good will, and the sheriff will we kill.
Yeah! How we will.
Aha!
Be all well, Friar Tuck. We doth his bold pluck.
Yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, or else shall your bows cliff.
Now we be bound and all in same. Friar Tuck, this is no game.
Come you forth, thou false outlaw. Thou shalt be hanged and draw.
Now, alas, what shall we do? Oh, we must to the prison go.
Open the gates fast anon, and do these thieves in gone.
In Robin Hood and the Sheriff / Knight, Robin Hood was played by Geir Madland, the Knight by Robert Crighton, the Sheriff by Richard Fawcett, Friar Tuck by Heydn McCabe, and the Outlaws by Nemonee Stone and Robert Myson. The presenter was Robert Crichton. And finally, I sign off this episode with the initial workshops we did with the play. This was part of our exploring series where we simply read through and discuss texts as a prelude to possible future production like this. As expounded upon earlier, this was a fairly flawed interpretation of the text, so we tie ourselves in knots discussing the incongruities of basic errors. But that's the process, folks. The readers are myself, Liz Cole, and Alan Scott of the Beyond Shakespeare Irregulars.
Now, the top chunk you don't need to worry about. That big wadge, that's how it's presented. What we're going to read through is how they think it's broken down. At the bottom of the page, that's the same script. So we're going to sort of... This isn't the only way, of course, that particular cookie can crumble. So, it may not be absolute. But I thought we'd just have a little read through that and see how we go. Would you like to be the sheriff, Liz?
Oh, yes.
If you'd be the knight,
Connect, yes.
and I'll be Robin Hood, and then we'll swap round. Someone else could be Friar Tuck at the end. But and there's a man, there's other things. But it's a series of... The assumption here with this, it's presumed that this is basically an outline, that the text is what was said, but there's obviously a lot more physical action going on. This is someone's interpretation of how the text works. There's obviously a lot of fighting going on in this.
Yeah.
So, can we have the knight? Who's the knight?
I am the
You are the
knight.
knight. Anyway, so we have a knight talking to a sheriff, presumably the sheriff of Nottingham. We don't know anything really at this stage about the knight. There isn't much dialogue here.
Sir Sheriff, for thy sake, Robin Hood will I take.
I will give thee golden fee. This behest thou. Hold me.
And that's the first exciting scene. It's
Went so fast.
I know. In fact, it was so good. Shall we do that again? So the knight is presumably a hired hand, an assassin, or whoever you are.
Yes.
I don't know how deep you feel your character goes yet. Dig deep.
Sir Sheriff, for thy sake, Robin Hood will I take.
I will thee give golden fee. This behest thou. Hold me.
And so, presumably, this behest is presumably the gold that he then hands to the knight. The knight then goes and finds Robin Hood.
Ooh.
Hello, I'll be Robin.
Robin Hood, fair and free, under this lind shoot we.
With thee shoot I will, all thy lusts to fulfil.
Have at thee, Pryke!
And I cleave the stike.
Let us cast the stone.
Right, let's just go back because obviously there's a little bit of action there after I cleave the stike. So again, all of these are associated with some kind of physical action.
Yeah.
Even though the text is very thin, so basically the knight leaps out, Robin Hood. Let's go back to the previous page. Let's just do that again. He leaps out at Robin Hood, presumably. Maybe there's some improvised dialogue, maybe there's some missing dialogue, who knows?
Robin Hood, fair and free, under this limb shoot we.
With thee shoot I will, all thy lusts to fulfil.
Have at thee, Pryke!
And I cleave the stike. And that's presumably the action of pulling the bow, or something like that.
I think it's more likely that he shot at a
Standing
wand.
Cleaves the stike.
And he's cut it in two.
So have at thee, Pryke, first volley from the knight, and then Robin shoots, and I cleave the stike.
Yes. Yeah.
So then it's the next test. They've done the bow and arrow test. So again, it's all about the visual stuff. This is almost just like a shorthand.
Yeah.
So next task is going to be casting stones at a target, presumably.
Let us cast the stone.
I grant well by St. Joan. Or Johann. Might be Johann. It's spelled John, actually, so let's try Ston. Maybe it's Ston. Hang on, let's go back to the original. No, it's down as stone. Let's just assume it's a strange half rhyme. So, anyway, they're going to do the stones. Let's do the stone bit again.
Let us cast the stone.
I grant well be St. John. And they cast, presumably at this point, some stones. Clonk.
Let us cast the exalt.
Have a foot before thee. And so, yes, they've done shooting, they've done throwing of stones, and now they're going to wrestle, which is what they suggested. Then they wrestle is what this interpretation says. Let us cast the exalt. Obviously, he wins, and Robin indicates he wins by the next line that we haven't said yet. Let's do this with sound effects. So you challenge me with wrestle while we speak. I speak my next line.
Let us cast the exalt.
have a foot before thee! Sir Knight, ye have a fall.
And I thee, Robin, quite shall. Out on thee, I blow mine horn.
It were better be unborn. Let us fight at outrance.
He that fleeth, God give him mischance.
Nah, so, you've fallen over, and you just obviously lose your... I shall thee quit or quite. I think it's obviously written as... Oh, it's Qwyte. I think quite is right. Requite, I think is what that means. I will get you.
Yeah.
And you're going to blow your horn because you're going to bring in some additional fighters.
Basically calling for help.
You're calling reinforcements.
Yeah.
Your men are going to come swooping in. You've obviously got some hired hands, and this is when the big fight begins. So again, it's all very visual. Shall we go from the Sir Knight? You have a fall, so I've just tripped you over, and you're going to say, right, that's it. We've done the hand-to-hand. I'm going to go for the reinforcements. Sir Knight, ye have a fall.
And I thee, Robin, quite shall. Out on thee, I blow mine horn.
It were better be unborn. Let us fight at outrance.
He that fleeth, God give him mischance.
It suggests that then, within the next line, that I win. So all sorts of non-stage directions in this particular version. Very interesting.
There's a bit of a curse on he that runs away.
Yes.
It were better be unborn. Let us fight at outrance.
He that fleeth, God give him mischance.
Huzzah! Now I have the mastery here. Off I smite this sorry swear. This knight's clothes will I wear, and in my hood his head will bear. So I nick your clothes. That's not very nice. It's not very nice, is it? So, in theory, a man comes meeting Robin. Well met, fellow mine. As I'm in disguise, I will now say, what hearest thou of good Robin?
Robin Hood and his many men...
With his many, it's just many.
I carried away with the TV.
I do like many, the fact that in the original spelling it's many, so it's many. We've got many men. It's sort of all incorporated in the same word.
Sorry, it was merry men.
Yeah, let's try that one again. I'll give you the run-in. Well met, fellow mine. What hearest thou of good Robin?
Robin Hood and his many with the sheriff taken be.
Set on foot with a good will, and the sheriff will we kill. So is there an assumption that you've now been enlisted in those two lines?
Set on foot with a good will.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's
come on.
egging them on, yes.
Yeah, would you like to come along? Because obviously I'm not Robin, as far as you're concerned. So, there's no... It's a précis of a play, in a sense,
I suppose if you
it?
just put set out on foot, then it would automatically mean that, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean that is obviously set on foot. So let's go. Let's go. So the battle presumably is happening somewhere else, within view. How this works as a piece of pageantry is interesting. So they come in sight of the battle. The sheriff is there, obviously in the thick of the action. I think you're going to have to be one of Robin's men.
I am, yes.
You have, in this short little sectionette, another 5 lines and the whole scene changes. Anyway, Robin and the man who is now silent reach the scene. You're now the sheriff again. Behold well, Friar Tuck, how he doth his bow pluck.
You do, sirs, to the sheriff, or else thou bows Clive?
Your bows, Sheriff Cliff. Break? Or else shall your bows break? I think that must be...
I suspect Cleave is
Cleave,
probably the...
Cleave. Go
that
with
makes
Cleave.
more sense.
Yeah, Cleave. That's certainly
Well,
a
you've
gloss.
got
That's a
to
gloss you can use in performance.
You've got to do Cleave to try and rhyme it with Sheriff.
I think we can live with rhymes not quite landing. I think if I ever do something with this, I've got to make it clear, and that's a decent close. So Robin comes in. Obviously, Friar Tuck is in the middle of the fray, fighting away. Behold, well, Friar Tuck, how he doth his bow pluck. So he's obviously shooting away, taking out endless numbers of sheriff's forces, and then the sheriff, obviously in the middle of the fray, bounces out with that. If you'll just do that, yield you, sirs, again.
Yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, or else shall your bows cleave.
Now we be bound and all in same.
I just wonder whether... Now we'd be bound and all in same. I mean, anyone could say that. The fact it's assumed it's one of Robin's men by this particular editor. I mean, there's no indication who's...
Well, it's not going to be the sheriff, and it's going to be... I mean, effectively, what it means is we've all been captured. Therefore, it's got to be one of Robin's side rather than the sheriff's side.
Yeah, but it could be Robin. I mean, there's no particular reason why it has to be a different speaker. Now we'd be bound and all the same. You know, he runs into the fray, and it would make more sense, I feel. But is bound and meaning literally they've been captured?
I took it that it meant bonded. You know,
they're all working together. That was my thinking. Is now so they enter the fray and they're back to back with Friar Tuck.
We're all together, lads.
So that's why it feels like it's more Robin as the leader of the pack. Now we're all in it together, men. That feels to me much more plausible.
I'm not sure. I see it more as.
I mean, it's very difficult. There's basically no data to work from.
You know, I think it's one of the lads. You know, it's almost Pike.
Yeah, but would you have thought that if you hadn't seen the thing saying it's one of Robin's men? That's the problem with this little doing it this way.
It's certainly not the sheriff.
It's not. No, it's got to be one from Robin's party. But I don't see any reason why it can't be Robin. I don't understand why from this data, it's assumed that someone. It could be the man from earlier. If he's joined Robin, that would make sense.
That would make sense.
Robin saw it on his own, then he meets a man on his own, so there's only two of them.
Yeah.
And then Robin's describing Friar Tuck, and then the sheriff is talking to you sirs, to the sheriff.
The sheriff is presumably talking to Friar Tuck. Because he's the one with the bows. Because remember, Robin's currently dressed as a knight. He's not, and he hasn't entered the fray. So he enters the fray, he or the man. Yeah, because he can't have any more men.
I think it probably does make sense that it's the chap he's
picked
earlier.
up. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, we've only got 7 lines left of this. It's amazing how much meal we can make of a few pages of a text. But I think this was fun one to unpack. This is much more. Because there is no data.
This is no game.
Come you forth, you false outlaw, thou shalt be hanged, and ye draw.
Now, alas, what shall we do? We most to the prison go.
Open the gates fast anon, and do those thieves be gone.
Okay, most should be must, obviously, Friar Tuck. We must to the prison go. I think that must be I don't think it can be host. It can't be most. Most doesn't really work. It could be host. We host to the prison go. The M is assumed. Well, there's some question over it. Let's run that page by itself without stage directions. Let's just run the dialogue and see how it goes. I appreciate that there's going to be a bit of a... actually, no, it's fine. I'll do one of Robin's men line. I'll do that line, so you don't need to do a 3-point turn. I'll do it like it's Robin and see how that flows. Behold well, Friar Tuck, how he doth his bow pluck.
Yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, or else your bows cliff.
Now we be bounden all in same.
This is no game.
Come you forth, you false outlaw, thou shalt be hanged in draw.
Now, alas, what shall we do? We must to the prison go.
Open the gates fast anon, and do these thieves in gone.
See, it makes sense that they've reached Friar Tuck and they're back to back, and that. So I think they're all captured at the same time. I don't think that works otherwise. Can we try that again? Once through, we'll do it exactly the same way. And be more evil. Let's
do my best.
Be more evil.
Green line cape.
So, from a distance, behold well Friar Tuck, how he doth his bow pluck.
Yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, or else your bows cleave.
Now we be bounden all the same.
This is no game.
Come forth, thou false outlaw. Thou shalt be hanged and draw.
Now, alas, what shall we do? We must to the prison go.
Open the gates fast and on, and do these thieves in gone.
See, that felt quite natural, with the sort of, ha ha ha, this is fun, and you go, no, it's not. We're going to die. We covered this last time. Now, the version I looked at, there's a different interpretation. Okay. So where it says Robin Man, it's suggested that actually it's not Robin. These are just random people. So where it says Robin Man, Robin, and then Robin again, these are just random outlaws.
So if we say Outlaw 1, Outlaw 2...
etc. Then on the following page, after the sheriff says, yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, one of Robin's men, now we be bounden all in same, Friar Tuck, this is no game. He actually says Friar Tuck. That's actually dialogue. That's not Friar Tuck saying this is no game. It's actually. So
what we're saying is that Outlaw says, now we be bounden all in same, Friar Tuck, this is no game.
Exactly. It's a one piece of dialogue, which I've sort of cocked up. So that's actually dialogue. That runs through, and that's gone. I just want to vaguely read through this in an untidy way as possible. So if these are 4 different people all saying sequential lines of dialogue.
Who's then being...
We'll just stop at that point. I just want to just run that little bit of dialogue together.
Well met, fellow mine. What hearest thou of good Robin?
Robin Hood and his many with the sheriff taken be.
Set on foot with a good will, and the sheriff we will kill.
Behold well, Friar Tuck, how he doth his bow pluck.
And that plucking occurs. Yield you, sirs, to the sheriff, or else shall your bows cliff. Now, and then who wants to be the... You do it, sir. You do those 2 lines together.
Now we be bounden all in same. Friar Tuck, this is no game.
Come you forth, thou false outlaw, thou shalt be hanged and draw. So I just wanted to vaguely record that to go with what we did before. I'm actually doing proper recordings to go with this. But I wanted to get a sense of it in the room, so it sounded like we workshopped it, which we did.
The Beyond Shakespeare podcast is supported by its patrons. Become a patron and you get to choose the plays we work on next. Go to www.patreon.com/Beyond Shakespeare.